It's a great day for another weekly Q&A session, and if you're wondering what this is, it is a similar setup to the weekly live streams, except, of course, instead of being live, it is actually pre-recorded, as you probably already guessed. And we'll start it off with a quick analysis of Bitcoin, then we'll get into the community's questions on Discord and YouTube. And looking at Bitcoin here, short term, medium term, I still think that Bitcoin has at least another try to the downside. I suspect that this week we'll see at minimum a test down to the 200 simple here on the daily, which is currently just around 83,500 bucks. If Bitcoin is going to break lower from there, I guess I would expect it kind of in the more medium term, but I still would suggest that, the downside in the greater picture of things, I do think is a little bit limited here. I don't think that, I shouldn't say that I don't think it's going to happen, but more importantly, Bitcoin finding a low somewhere between very high 60s and very low 70s would be completely fine as far as the greater picture does go for the bull case. But if Bitcoin really starts to trade below November's low, that's where I say, okay, this it's over, baby. It's over, and there's no more hopium to be reliant upon. But as it stands right now, that would mean that Bitcoin from that not Friday, but February dump, the end of February, that is, I wouldn't be expecting it like significantly lower than that, not somewhere down. I don't expect Bitcoin to go down to like 50,000 bucks and then fucking, back up to new all-time highs, something like that. That's kind of my point. And then also I wanted to follow up on the hash ribbon signal, which is once again spitting out a projected buy date. Of course, this projection can change, as you have seen. It is obviously assuming that the current price of Bitcoin is going to remain relatively steady around its current area, 86,000 bucks. I don't think that's going to happen early this week, but we'll see where things, come back around by the end of the week. But assuming that Bitcoin stays somewhere around here, then yes, that projected buy signal is likely not that far away. Now, we also have in the past gone over the average amount of days from the capitulation signal to the projected buy signal, and that has been on average around 40 to 42 days. That is coming up relatively soon and also somewhat aligning with the projected buy signal over here. That would be a little bit later, maybe closer to 1 week from Monday, but somewhere around there, that is starting to make a lot of sense with our general statistics that we have looked at for this indicator. And if and when that does fire off, again, in my opinion, it is not in any way, shape, or form an immediate buy signal. Like a lot of the time, Bitcoin does come down a little bit from that region, but it gives a very obvious area of management. So it depends obviously where, if and when this does fire off, where that area of management will be. But from there, that's when I get interested in perhaps, a major reversal here back to the upside. Anyways, moving on from there, we should get into the actual community section here. We're going to start off with the YouTube members. As always, YouTube members get priority. And we'll start it off with Old Green Gold. He says, hey, Ground, could you look at INST and EUL? I'm guessing these are real stocks. Sure. INST. Wait, hold on. Whoops, wrong one. INST. Okay, I do have it right there. Yes, but I'm not seeing anything. Oh no, it is a fucking crypto. Jesus. Insta app. Not as bad as what I would have been expecting for like a random nameless altcoin that I've never heard of. I do think that it's trying to put in a low kind of where it's at right now, maybe a little bit lower, similar to Bitcoin. Wouldn't be expecting it, closing below the 200 simple, especially on an open and close basis, if this one is going to be indeed bullish over the long term. But there's a very obvious range going on here. It's in the middle of that range. I am biased towards this one coming down closer to the bottom side of this range, but very likely a bounce from there, then probably another test to the top side of the range. But I don't think that you're moving outside of the range anytime soon. Or if it is going to be a move outside of the range, it would be to the downside in this case. So yeah, wrapping up my thoughts. Short term comes down a little bit more. Maybe that's $4.50, 460-ish region, somewhere around there. If it is bullish, I'd be expecting a bounce from that mid, actually even lower $4 $7 area, but nowhere below those December 2024 lows, especially on a closing basis. Until then, this could be argued as some nice reaccumulation. But for right now, it is going to take a long time, I suspect, during that accumulation portion, if this one is indeed going to be bullish. And I suspect that, you'd see Bitcoin obviously being bullish as well. So if and when Bitcoin does have another short-term downside move, this thing likely comes with it. But doesn't look all that bad compared to most shitcoins that we typically look at. Okay, and then EUL. Okay, EUL. I'm guessing this is also some. Yes, it is a crypto. Euler. Also a much different chart than what I have seen on many altcoins. So that probably deserves its own recognition. You do see on the weekly time frame there is indeed a higher low, and actually a pair of higher lows, and a slightly higher high. So I do look at this one as playing out a greater accumulation range here as well, something like this, with those rising bottoms coming in along this region here. But ultimately, in the short term, I do think that this one tests somewhere close to the top side of the range, that being just around $7.50. Do I think it's going to break out on this next test to the top side? Probably not, but if it does close above about 750, 760, whatever your March 2024 highs were, that's where I'd say, yeah, this thing's ready to retest prior all-time highs and make new all-time highs. I mean, prior all-time highs, $13. That's nearly a 2x from that area anyways. So, not bad there. In the very, very short term, I do think that it has some more upside here. Only way I'd switch around on that opinion is if it traded back down below last Tuesday's low, which was about $5. If you see that, okay, probably comes back down to the bottom side of the range, but I don't think that's happening here. I think that this one is actually looking head and shoulders better than many altcoins that I've seen over this past week. Anyways, I'm looking to hold at least one of these through the next cycle. Okay, so that's where I would completely change around my analysis, because the long-term history of altcoins having two good cycles rather than just one good cycle is the probabilities are so far against you that it's probably easy to get hit by lightning, I would imagine. But it does happen 1 out of a million. You do see survive from cycle to cycle and make new highs. So in that case, I would perhaps consider that. You're saying you mostly do fundamental analysis, and your unbiased analysis of technicals is often sobering. Thanks, sir. Yeah, all good, man. I mean, it's different venues, so of course they should really be taken into consideration with each other. The problem is for cryptos that most of these things don't have fundamentals. They have a lack of fundamentals. And especially fundamental data. I mean, there's not like fucking earnings reports for these things. Cousin Burley says, hey, Crown, is a hash rate indicator you're using proprietary? Yeah, the one that has the projection here, it is proprietary. And it is a private script that one of the community members made a long time ago, but I've since lost contact with him, and I don't actually remember what his name was, so I can't reach out to him. But I imagine, likely someone else could make a reverse calculation that would do the exact same thing. The code for the original hash ribbons is freely available on the public library, so I suspect that one of the programmers out there can probably figure that one out if it's worth their time. Anyways, we'll move on now to the Discord section here. By the way, I've already posted the next Q&A for next week. That's going to be March 9th. And let's start it off with Mr. Myth Reindeer. Good morning, sir. Spring is back. Not in crypto, though. Lol. Indeed. Less so spring here in Finland, though, I can tell you that, ma'am. Anyways, so what would be your general views on the alt for the cycle? Everything topped, now the bounces are only hope to offload. My general view for probably 95, maybe even 98% of alts is that they have seen the high for this cycle. They will very likely get a big bounce at some point in the next few months. But I think that bounce will ultimately be a lower high compared to whatever their prior all-time high was, and then it'll come back down to kind of where it's at right now, and likely lower over time. That's my general idea for most alts, basically since like mid-January to February. That's when we started to, really observe a lot of these things as, really confirming like major macro long-term reversals. So, again, don't underestimate how high these things can bounce. Let me think of an example. I don't even have an example. What's like a random meme? Brett Coin. Well, okay. If I feel like we'd have more history than that. This thing, let's put it on regular scale. Okay, I'm not saying that this is going to bounce as much, but just as an example's sake, this thing could bounce up all the way here to 10, 11 cents, which would be a 3x move from where it's at right now, 3x plus, and that would still be another macro lower high. I mean, this thing is heavily bearish as long as it's below 16 cents, and it ain't nowhere fucking near there. So, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I'd be looking for. I do think that these are nearing some pretty nice bounces, maybe after one more move to the downside and then big bounce, but I do think it will be a big bounce. It's ultimately going to be the next lower high. All right. And let me just see. In case Bitcoin does a new all-time high, let's say in summer, for example, do you think they can recover, or would it be? Yeah, I think it would be a lower high. I really do. I don't see stuff like this ever getting back above the prior all-time high, or at least not, in the foreseeable future. Certainly not this cycle. Anyways, whoops, wrong one. There we go. All right. Rectop says, GM Crown, love what you do for us. All good, man. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Could you take a look at IBIT ETF? Yeah. In fact, I've been looking at this one more and more recently, just because I do think that this will be the best way to kind of chart Bitcoin price action in the future. But it still kind of lacks, or doesn't kind of lack history. It certainly lacks history here. It literally has just over a year of history, so makes long-term analysis very difficult. But in this case, the trend is very obvious here. The trend is very much your friend. It's very similar to CME as well. I do think that this one is coming back down at least to retest this low. I personally think somewhere between there and the 200 simple on the daily is likely the destination for this thing. If it is going to indeed be bullish, I would be expecting a low somewhere around here. Worst case scenario on like a $70,000 flush out for Bitcoin, maybe closer to $40, but anywhere in this vicinity. Again, that's going to have to be combined with other signals that we've been looking at. But you can already see that if this thing did come back down to say the 200 simple here, there will be naturally some bullish divergence on the daily RSI. I mean, I don't think it's going to go lower than this particular point right here. So naturally, you'd have a higher low plus a lower low on price action. There's your bullish divergence. Once you get 3 drives of that, I have to be at least looking for a big bounce, maybe even a reversal. So yeah, cool stuff, man. iFusion says, hello, sir. First off, a very big thank you for all good, man. I appreciate that. Next, I know a lot of people ask for OMUSD, but can you look at OMBTC on the monthly? Let me know what you make of it. Okay, so let's check this one out. OMBTC. All right, on the monthly specifically. It's hard to hate a straight up chart like this, but it of course is ringing all kinds of alarm bells in my brain whenever I see something like this. Even your monthly RSI got up to 94. I mean, you don't see that too often on a monthly RSI. Weekly is starting to have some bearish divergence form here from high to high. Either this one's hit a high or it's really fucking close to it. Personally, with the way that the market is looking like, I do think it will come down a bit more, maybe closer to like 6,500 Satoshis, perhaps even all the way down to like 5,200 Satoshis. I mean, big range right there, but that would be a bounce region for me. But when I see something like this, I think, okay, did this thing solve fucking cancer? Maybe not. Maybe it has. I don't know. In the very short term, though, I actually do think it's going to bounce here. It's going to bounce up, maybe even retest these highs at 8,800 to 9,000 Satoshis. So short term should have another try up. If I'm wrong, here's how you'll know that this thing is not topped out. You'll see it close back above about 9,000 Satoshis. And if you see that, then this thing has at least another new all-time high to put in. But I really would express concern here, skepticism, hesitancy. Whenever I see something like this, I mean, if the high is not already in, it's very, very close, both in terms of time and in terms of probably price as well. But if it moved up to like 10,000 plus Satoshis, I guess that wouldn't surprise me too much. But I'm more inclined to say that this one is putting in a top right here. Most higher term timeframes kind of agreeing with this, but yeah. Anyways, still, funnily enough, among the best charts in crypto land. Is this thing looking to correct anytime soon? I don't know how I feel about 16 green monthly candles back to back. Yeah, you don't see that too often either. Actually, I don't think it was 16, but if you got rid of this this red one right here, you're probably right. Yeah, man. Again, if the high is not already in, I think it's really fucking close. Flicky says, "Good day, mate. Is it, if possible, could you do some visual TA? What other sort of TA have you seen me do on the global liquidity indicator? Hide the blue SMA. Okay. I see what you want. Sure. Let me bring up the chart here. A lot of people like this one. I think Raoul Pal has popularized this thing, or just the notion of global liquidity. And what you're asking about is, you want me to get rid of the simple moving average there, so that's just the blue moving average, and do a general analysis of the actual trend. So let's go to maybe a weekly or a monthly in this case. And we can see that the weekly here has a higher, so higher low, higher high, higher low, lower high, same low, higher high. This thing's in a consolidation now. When I do look at the higher timeframes, I do think that it's actually still expanding here. The 5-day timeframe is one that I've actually been watching a lot, and this one is continuing. So I do suspect that the trend is your friend, and the trend is to the upside in this case. I don't really have much to say other than that. If that's what you're just wanting to look at highs and lows on this thing, supporting resistance as well. I don't know if that's really going to work on this, but your obvious, I guess, support in this case would be somewhere around here. You can see kind of worked out decently, kind of got that last local low from late December. So if it did come back down around there, who knows if it acts as support again. But it would be interesting to me, because if you are going off of just like classical TA, you'd be looking at something like this. You'd say, hey, this was an ascending triangle. It broke out. It came back down to retest the breakout. Now it's back up. That's your throwback. And now it's going to move to new all-time highs. I'm just saying that would be it from a classical TA perspective. I'm not saying that that's exactly going to happen. Global liquidity is the one thing that is, in my opinion, completely unpredictable, because central banks can do whatever the fuck they want without at any notice, and that can throw a nice span into the works for that particular indicator. But for right now, I still think it's going up anyway. So fits my bias. I like it. All right. Hamia says, "Hey, Crown, please do Ethereum on daily, weekly, monthly, bi-monthly as well." Ooh, we're getting the buys. All right. Let me find, and also the T time frame as well. Where is my Ethereum? There it is. All right. Ethereum bad. Ethereum loves to take every fucking chance it can and fail, and just fail miserably. You gotta love it. No, you don't. It's communist soy boy activities. Just kidding. Although actually kind of not, apparently. At least Vitalik Buterin is into that sort of stuff. So fair enough. Anyways, okay, so you just want general TA. Fair enough. Let's go down to a daily first, see if there's anything obvious here. Similar to Bitcoin, I do think that this one probably retests the lows first before any sort of a bounce, but it should be known that Ethereum has actually already had a death cross here. The death cross I'll show as the red versus the white moving averages. That actually happened back in the beginning of March. So to me, that is a long-term, a long-term loser signal. Doesn't mean that it's going to not have short-term bounces. In fact, a lot of the times, almost every time, in fact, you see one of these death crosses happen, it pumps up, and then that next lower high is the lower high to be mindful of. But here's the thing: we saw the same shit back here in August of 2024. That was a buy signal, and typically your first death cross signal after being golden crossed for a long time, in this case, multiple years over here, is going to be a failure. But the second one, a lot of the time, does work out, and this would be the second one right here. So, again, almost every time these things do have pretty epic bounces, and that's what I think that this market's going to generally do. But Ethereum comes up to 3,000 to 3,200, somewhere around there maybe. But if it rejects, and then that's your lower high, and that's your completion of a weekly reversal at that point. Looking at other higher term timeframes, it's like I don't want to count Ethereum out, to be honest, just because the timing and everything of this cycle doesn't make too much sense, and or at least compared to other cycles. And Ethereum, despite the earlier jokes and criticism, it has been one of the long-term winners. So I don't want to be going against that until proven otherwise. But it's getting close to proving me otherwise. So there is that. We can also go over stochastic momentum. As long as the higher term time frame pivots are to the downside, I can't be bullish on something that looks like this. Again, if it does bottom out here, I'm going to miss the low. That's okay. That's fine. I don't care about Ethereum anyways, to be honest. But if I'm taking on the identity of someone who's asking this question, the monthly momentum is still to the downside as long as it's below 2,800. It's very much below there right now. Bi-weekly is down below 3,500. I mean, it's even higher. Weekly is also down below 2,750. That's closing later today. 10-day time frame is also down below 3,200. If you go over the bi-monthly, which you also asked about, that would be freshly turning down below 3,400. The more and more that I look at it, the more and more that I actually kind of do think this thing does come down to 1,500 to 1,300 somewhere. If I'm just looking at the bi-monthly, I'd be looking at somewhere here. To be honest, it does look like one massive retest of these highs from 2021, 2022, and I mean, I guess the bullish view is that, okay, this should be literally the low right here, no lower, no fucking lower, no lower than where it's at right now. If you can do that, then you have your higher low. I think that the long-term hopium for this being one massive ascending triangle would still be alive. But the second that it loses its current low on a higher term time frame, I do think it's going to be coming down somewhere around 1,300 to 1,500. How long does that take? I don't fucking know, but that would be my general area of interest. Ethereum, at least in my opinion, very much the biggest disappointment of this cycle. Anyways, Treebeard says, hello, master. Hello, sir. How long did it take you to get to the 1 million club since you consider yourself a successful trader? Oh God, who says I have $1 million? No. Okay. So how long did it take me to get to 1 million? Since you consider yourself a successful trader? I mean, I don't know from the time that I consider that, but I can tell you the time from when I first began to the time where I actually had a net worth of 1 million. Wasn't necessarily 1 million in my bank account, but it was a net worth of 1 million. And that was, let me calculate it. Okay. So, 6 or 7 years, 6 years, 7 years. Something like that. Somewhere between 6 and 7 years. My brain's kind of breaking right now. But yeah. Anyways, let's see. Weird Beard says, hey, Crown, thanks for doing these Q&A sessions. All good, man. They're actually quite fun. What does discipline mean to you, and how do you cultivate it as a new trader? That's a really great question. Okay, so discipline within the context of trading means what? It means that you are able to construct test and execute your trading plan. And then all of the sub behaviors below those are also, of course, integrated, meaning that when you have discipline within the context of trading, you have the discipline to create your strategy. So go through, the process that I give out is you have a trade checklist, if you want to call it that. And it's just the minimum criteria for entry and exit that you're going to be testing. This is like the scientific method almost, or I guess it kind of is, because you're creating a hypothesis and you're testing it, and then you're drawing statistics from that and seeing, if it's relevant to you or not. But that's, it's the same process. So you need to have discipline to consistently do that, and then obviously also execute those trades in the exact way that you have constructed this strategy. So you have the strategy portion that you need to be disciplined in, but also the execution portion, and that's actually quite difficult to do, especially for newer people. But how can you cultivate that skill? Okay, so what I would actually suggest is to draw in for many people getting into trading. You probably had some other skill that you've done earlier in life. And by the way, if you haven't done this, I'll give an example at the end of how you can do it with just trading. But let's say, in your earlier years, you were learning boxing. That's something that I'm doing right now. In fact, I just had this nice sparring session yesterday. It's really going really well, actually. But my head does hurt today, I will say. Anyways, when you are learning boxing, or actually, let me give you the example of weightlifting, because I think more people are accustomed to that. With weightlifting, how many times have you wanted a certain goal physique and you calculated all of the things that you need to do in order to reach that? You had to have the right macros on a daily basis. You had to have training days of a certain variety and certain type, for X amount of days per week. And how many times, once you had all of that in place, where you felt like in your body, you felt, fuck, I don't want to go, or, you find your brain trying to make excuses for anything. In fact, I always have this with sparring and boxing. Like, my brain before sparring is like, what are you doing this for? Like, you idiot. There's no reason to risk anything here. But I fucking really enjoy doing it, and I want to get better. And so when if you've experienced that in the past with weightlifting, where it's like, hey, I know I need to do my workout today. I feel like shit. Maybe I didn't get a great night of sleep last night. Maybe I just, I don't know, my dad just died, and, if I feel bad, terrible example, but you get the idea. But you can, the cultivation comes from feeling those feelings and then still doing it anyways, because you can feel good and play out your strategy. You can feel bad and play out your strategy. You probably don't even know what the fuck you're feeling, but you can still play out your strategy. And it all just comes down to specifically doing those actions rather than, at least in my opinion, trying to, philosophize around it. Because when you start to philosophize around it, you start to do a lot of mental masturbation. So the answer to cultivate it as a trader, and you can do this even if you don't have past experience to draw upon, is just trust the process. Trust the process. I'm telling you, if you spend time creating a strategy, testing that strategy, and then you actually execute that strategy in the exact way that you tested it, you can trust that things will work out in that direction. It might not be perfect. In fact, it very likely won't be perfect. Maybe it's a little bit better. Maybe it's a little bit worse than your projected results. Obviously, it's not going to be exact, but you should have a good idea, and that's something that you can trust in, and you'll make adjustments along the way naturally. And just understand it's going to take some concerted effort to develop a habit. Many studies say anywhere between 3 weeks to 3 months of consistent behavior. Whatever it is, the idea is just fucking do the right action and trust that over time your brain will switch on to this new behavior, and that will become, and it'll start to actually support you in that endeavor and make it easier. And you'll actually start to feel bad when you're not, executing as you should, for example. So, yeah, some good old water as well. All right. Daily Press. I actually really enjoy these philosophical questions, by the way. Daily P says KMNO. KMNO. Okay. Sounds like Camino. All right. It is indeed a crypto, and it is indeed called Camino. Must be Star Wars fans. Yeah. Another example of something that's topped out. over the long term. Do I think that this thing has another downside move before it bounces? Maybe. I mean, the thing is, it would not take much to bounce this thing at all. But as of right now, I guess maybe one more flush out to the downside. How far down could it go? Could it go? Maybe like 5.5 cents, somewhere around there. But I do think that this one's getting ready for a bounce. But here's the thing: you got daily death cross. You have a parabolic blow off high. You have you have most topping signals for most altcoins that you're going to see. So if it does rally up, anything below the 200 simple, which is currently at 11 cents, is just going to be another lower high. And that's kind of where you do expect your lower highs during these major downtrending movements. But yeah, long term, the result is the same, down. So we'll see how high of a bounce it gets, or if it gets a bounce at all. And then, but ultimately, at least what I would be saying is that whether it's medium or long term or short term, downside is going to be the answer long term. None average says, "Hey Crown, always enjoying your sense of good, man. I'm glad. Some people not so much, actually. When this would be a left translated cycle and we would go into a bear market, would the bottom then be 67-ish, as this was a previous high of the previous cycle?" Previous cycles, the bottom in the bear was always around the high of the previous cycle. Yeah, that is true. That is true. But I would actually argue something else in this case. So what I would argue is that, let me just put this on log scale, is that, okay, yes, that is true. Actually not all bull markets have, okay, actually, yes, all bottoms in Bitcoin have been on higher lows on a monthly closing basis than the last prior high on a closing basis. And you'll probably point out to 2017 versus 2021 and say, Crown, that's not true. No, I meant on a closing basis. If you want to be super specific with it, you can see very obviously right here, it actually did not close below the prior high. So of course, the prior high for Bitcoin is here at about $62,000. So we wouldn't be expecting, closures below there. Okay, that I would love, don't get me wrong, but I would have to argue up a big counterpoint to that, because from Bitcoin's current high to, let's just assume $62,000, that would be a 42.5% drawdown. Okay, that is big from the all-time high, but compared to all past market cycles, it's nothing. For example, 2021 to the lows, 77.5% down. 2017 to the lows, 84.25% down. 2014 to the lows was 86.5% down. 2011 was 93.5% down. You get the idea. The rate at which the drawdowns are declining is getting smaller over time, but I think it would be a pretty fucking big jump to say from 77 all the way to like 45. That would make sense. So that's another reason why I'm like, the timing of it, the way that things look, like I don't want to I don't want to lean on or lean towards Bitcoin, cycle being over at this exact moment, even though I do think it very likely does go down a little bit more, in my opinion, a little bit more, and some people's a lot more. But these sort of things, they these sort of things have certainly been weighing on me. It's like, okay, does that make sense? Sometimes it doesn't need to make sense, but yeah. Let's just, by the way, for example's sake, so let's make the assumption that Bitcoin continues to reduce the drawdowns from cycle to cycle. Even then the last one about 77%, let's say that this one was 65%, for example, that would put Bitcoin all the way down at $38,000. That's and even that's probably optimistic, to be fair. But yeah, that'd put Bitcoin $38,000, which is well below that prior all-time high. So if things did top out here, I wouldn't count on it. I really wouldn't count on it. Like if the cycle is over, I don't think you're gonna find the low at like $60,000. Anyways, Protocol says, hey, Crown, thanks for taking the time to answer my new question. Okay, man, in your video on 25th of February, you're looking at the weekly chart and said that we are trading below January's low, and this confirms a reversal. However, when we are looking at trend on the weekly chart, do we not use closing basis instead of wicks? Yeah, in that case, because this move was so monumental, I looked at the wick as just like, okay, for me, I'd rather be aggressive in this instance rather than passive. So when it came back down below that January low, okay, I think this thing is going to be going, decently lower. And it did go decently lower from that low of $90,000 to the new low of $78,000. But has a trend truly reversed here? Let's see, high, low, lower high, higher low, higher high. But this was all consolidation, making neither a new all-time high nor taking out that first major low. Then it makes a new low, so you have a lower low plus a lower high. So actually, yeah, you could very easily argue that this is reversed. And if you're just looking at spot price action, I mean, that'll be confirmed today. If you're looking at CME, it was already confirmed on Friday. But yeah, in this instance, when I see something like that, I do think that you can be more aggressive by using wicks. And I think that was the right call in this case. So yeah. However, when we are also when confirming a downtrend on the weekly, would a lower high followed by a lower low be a downtrend? Yes. Or does it? Oh no, it doesn't have to be. Neither has to come first. But generally, the way that it looks is you get a lower high, then a lower low first. But it's not like a rule that it has to be in that order. Yeah. Hopefully that's helpful, man. What's up, Mr. Lovewoods? Hope you've been well, man. Hope you've been well as well, sir. SPY futures. Okay, cool. Nice. Some real stock action over here. I was looking at this. I was looking at traditional markets just in general recently a lot. Let's see. How far down from the highs have we come down? About 8%. I do see, I know you used about SPY, but I'm going to be looking at NASDAQ here and triple Qs. All of these look quite similar. Triple Qs and NASDAQ especially, and SPY to a lesser extent, have been putting in the lows during this bull market all around that green moving average, which is a 55 exponential. That is where this thing has bounced off of thus far. SPY's, pretty much the same here as well. Didn't get exactly down there, but, close enough is close enough. Also hanging on to that white 200 simple on the daily. And I do believe that, no, you don't have bullish divergence here. So fair enough. But, I do think that you're going to get a decent bounce off of this region. Problem is that you got lower highs, as long as you're below 6,000 and change. So this thing could theoretically bounce up, if it's going to be bearish, probably bounces up decently towards 6,000, maybe even hit 6,000, but then turns back down. If you see that, I don't know if this 55 is going to hold again, but we'll see, I guess. We do have an FOMC coming up a little bit later, but a lot of signals here for a swing high. With the monthly, we got the monthly jewel coming down, also having that red background. Monthly RSIs broke in the moving average, also losing the bullish control zone. It's early in the month to really be judging these things, but if things do end under 5,800 by end of month, I mean, I have to be looking for a deeper correction towards 5,300, 5,200-ish region. But I'm actually a long-term buyer there, just personally. Again, my strategy in traditional markets is I buy every 10% downside move, or 10 to 15%, depending upon how much I think it's going to go down. But keep in mind, I'm massively long-term with stock market positions, like 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So, maybe that's relevant to you. Maybe it's not, but yeah, man. Oh, you're looking at a 4 hour, Jesus. 4 hour time frame, many drives of bullish divergence come off this low. It kind of aligns with the daily as well. I think that you're in a bounce area right here. Very rarely do you just slice through the 200 simple without like a real bounce attempt in between. That bounce can result in a lower high, but bounce, whether it's a bounce or reversal, I mean, the short term, I still think bounces from here. And then we find out if it's a real reversal, probably around 6,000, I guess. Anyways, Den says, hello, Crown. What do you think about WTI crude oil? I fucking hate trading oil, and I hate looking at oil. That's why I don't do it. It doesn't look good. This target of a descending triangle is 33. If it does get confirmed, I don't trust technical formations on something like oil. On the other hand, the psychics who predicted Trump's failed assassin also predicted pepper in the markets in the following months when Trump comes to the White House. I don't understand what pepper is, to be honest. I don't know what you're referencing, man. But if I'm just looking at WTI, let's see. Did I do the right one here? Yeah. Okay. It is a downtrend and it does look pretty fucking ugly. I'd be very bearish on this thing as long as it's below that January high at 79. Now, is it going to hit your $33 target? I don't fucking know about that, but I do have to lean towards the downside here. I think 50, 56, 57 is very likely. 45, 40-ish also in the cards as well if things get really, really bad. 33, 35 though, that's actually still pretty damn far away. But yeah, I would be bearish here for sure. Again, there's going to be bounces along the way, but even the weekly at a death cross as well, like this thing could rally up to $75 again, and I'd just be looking for a sell there. But the reason why I hate crude oil or just oil in general is that you see pump and dumps out of nowhere. It's like the one market where I'd say this one kind of is manipulated because, you have all these oil producing nations and they know how to kind of create and manage artificial demand and supply. So yeah, anyways, overall, I'd be bearish with you on this one. Just, I don't know about that $35 target or $33 target, man. Possible, but I'd be looking for those first two ones to at least produce some pretty big bounces, maybe reversals before then. Neil Yo says, good morning. I've been watching your channel every day since 2021. That is fucking crazy and also awesome, man. Thank you, brother. Could you please look at NVIDIA and give your thoughts on the weekly, monthly HPDR? Okay, so specifically the HPDR, let me bring it up over here. It is indeed my favorite indicator, but I actually don't have it on my charts right now. All right, and what time frame was you looking at? NVIDIA monthly, weekly, monthly. Okay, got it. NVIDIA weekly, monthly. I don't know if there's going to be enough history actually for. Or no. This one should have a lot of history. Let's see. Yeah, there's all kinds of history here. Weekly did test all the way down to the 78.6 level. I do think you're at least going to get a short-term bounce here. It's also your lows from early February as well. Monthly, I just want to look at this one over here as well, just to see if this lines up. Like, do we see bearish divergence as well on the monthly? Yeah, and big ones as well. 1, 2, 3, 4 coming off these last few highs. So I think that this one's actually topped out for a while. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing come down to like somewhere between 85 to $75. Maybe try for a low there. If things got really fucking bad, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but if things got really bad, I'd be looking towards 60, 61, 62 region. But for right now, what I'd feel most comfortable in saying is that I think that this thing's topped out for a long time. Whenever you see 3 major drives or more of bearish divergence on a higher term time frame, it almost always results at least in like a major swing high, and in many cases, actual reversals. If I'm looking at the monthly from the HPDR, it's just kind of telling me the bounce areas, on the way down that I'd be looking at. But I'd be treating this one as bearish as long as it's below, especially February's high. As long as it's below there, it, in my opinion, needs to prove itself. Otherwise, downside more likely. And yeah, I'd be saying somewhere like mid 70s. Would look about right to me. Yeah. Something like that. Mid 70s. I think 85 might be a little bit too optimistic. So yeah. Let's see. Good day when Lambo. I would also like to too when my Lambo will be arriving for just being a market participant, keeping my hands in my Angus and doing absolutely fuck all. But I want my damn Lambo. So where is it? Where Lambo should be the real question. When Lambo? No. Where Lambo? Where is it? Volpe says, Dear Crown, in some previous videos you mentioned you're not looking for a cycle top before the BBWP on the bi-weekly. It was the weekly. Goes beyond 80%. Are you still looking at this thesis as valid? Yeah, this is again another reason that I'm really hesitant to call the March cycle over. Like BBWP in December reached 84 percentile, about the same as what it reached during the March highs of 2024 as well, just a year ago. But if you look at all of the prior all-time highs for volatility had gotten into extremes, like at least 90 plus. You can see this was your 2021 highs around here. This was also, your lows of 2020. Your highs of 2017 right here. Again, that's a 94 read. Your highs of November 2013 here at 94. Again, during the double bubble, April 2013. And of course, in 2011 as well, all getting at minimum above 92. So, this one getting up to 84, like that is a market difference. And volatility is one of the most important things, in my opinion, for calling major market highs and major market lows. And this one, like, it has not hit that level. So yeah, I'd be hesitant to again, that's another reason why I'm hesitant to say the market cycle is over for Bitcoin just yet. The problem is I can make a really good technical case for it being over, but a lot of the fundamental things, and then stuff like this as well. It's like I haven't seen any of that hit, so it definitely makes me question that. So yeah. Anyways, Mr. Barash says hype USD. Okay, let's get it over here. I think I have it. Bad, pretty fucking bad, man. Again, with a lot of these alts, I think there's going to be some pretty epic bounces, but just for example's sake, this thing could bounce up all the way to $23 and I'd still be bearish on it. The trend is set here. The trend is to the downside. This thing is broken on all time frames that matter to it right now. And again, probably bounces here. I mean, it's hit some pretty extreme levels. It could bounce up to like 20, 21, and that's just another lower high. Anything below $23.50 is a fail, in my opinion. I don't really have much to say about it other than that. I mean, this thing looks like another failed altcoin to me, to be honest. But I know that a lot of people really believe in this one. They really, really like it. But at least from this chart, I don't see it. So, yeah. All right. Let's see. Texas SigEp says, thanks for the insights. All good, man. And respect for keeping the streak alive. It will not end as long as my OCD is critical. Would you mind taking a look at Cookie USD? It sounds like another one of our highly esteemed altcoin meme coins. Cookie DAO. Yes. Give me cookies. I've been good boy. Give me cookies. Bad. Also bad. But just by the not so amazing virtue of retesting just about its prior all-time low at 15 cents. So, maybe it comes down a little bit more to meet 15 cents. I do think you're going to bounce around there. It's just, you're almost always going to bounce around a prior major high or major low. But that would imply that in the short term, there is a little bit more downside. I do see a drive of hidden bearish divergence there. On the daily. So, maybe it comes down to like 15-ish, then bounces up, but I'd just be looking for lower highs here. Again, very bearish as long as you're below, you're beginning a March high, honestly. A hard one to love. A lot of these are very hard to love. If this thing closed below last week's low, I think that any bounce you're going to get is going to result in more downside. From here, I'm not going off of much, to be fair. Like there's kind of a lack of a real chart here on the weekly or even the daily for that matter. But that's what I'd be saying based off of the information that I have here. Probably bounces on this prior low, but I don't think that's going to be the bounce that saves this one and reverses it for the eternity of eternity. But maybe a tradable bounce. Angel Crypto Doe says, good day, sir. Good day as well, sir. Longtime follower since Snowbit and continue to learn a lot. Awesome, man. Question on, I'm guessing this is Elliot Wave theory. In your experience, is it a potentially better, for lack of a better word, for predicting market patterns than some of the price action shape patterns I learned early on? So I should say that you're asking someone who thinks that Elliot Wave is mostly bullshit, their opinion about it. So just understand that that's my perspective. But I do think that Elliot Wave is mostly bullshit, and it's a very simple reason why. It's very difficult to predict even, the next the next move for any asset, let alone the next 5 fucking moves. So in my mind, when you're trying to do more stuff even further out in time and you're trying to get everything correct in between, like there's so many points of failure, so many variables. And at the end of the day, price is going to tell you anyway. So I think that the patterns that you learned early on probably are going to be a little bit better. But the better thing than any of this, and what supersedes all of this nonsense between patterns and Elliot Wave theory and fucking, the next greatest thing, all of the price action trading as well, is this. It all comes down to trend. It all literally comes down to trend. And I'm saying this as someone who has been doing this now for over 15 years. And I used to really denigrate trend. I'm like, these fucking Luddites looking at trend all the time. Like, why do they care? Indicators over here say otherwise. No, the trend always tells you, and you can understand any pattern or your Elliott Wave analysis just by looking at trend. Of course, you're not going to know exactly where things are going to go, but you're going to have that general shape that you're looking for anyways, because an uptrend is an uptrend, higher highs and higher lows, and a downtrend is lower lows and lower highs. Whoa, it's really beautiful outside, by the way. Holy shit. Finland just like switched up in a minute here. This is crazy. Yeah. So, and again, I know a lot of people swear by Elliott Wave. I think maybe it can be okay as a guide, but I see it fail more than I see it succeed. Maybe that's due to, the operator, but that's just my opinion, for better or worse. Anyways, Maxi says, Crown, precisely how many girthy green dildos does it take to make you euphoric? About 5 in my mouth and 2 in my bunghole. Given your extensive experience seeing girthy dildos in your face and up your bunghole, what does it take to get you excited anymore? I don't know. You tell me, Mr. Maxi. Ryan says, what's your thoughts on that CME gap that opened a whopping 12% above where it closed last week? Largest gap since 2018, even bigger than the COVID dump gap. Do you think it'll be filled? Most gaps, almost all gaps, get filled over some time, but the time component of that is often left out of the equation. So let's first identify what you're talking about. You're talking about, you're talking about this gap right here. Yeah, it was already filled. It's filled on Monday. Let's see when you posted this. Same day, literally same day. So yeah, it did pop up around there. Well, there you go. It has indeed been filled, and this one quite quickly as well. Oh, not bad. All right, let's move on. We have Colin. He says, would it be possible to automate a strategy using the 2-pole oscillator from Big Beluga? Okay, I'll just bring this one up. As long as it has labeled outputs, it really shouldn't be an issue. Let me see. What the fuck was it called again? 2-pole oscillator. Okay. 2-pole. Okay, I don't know which one is this one here. Okay, let's put on our skeleton key as well. Let's see what the outputs are here. Oh, there's, yeah, I'm going to assume, what the fuck? Okay, so it is an oscillator. Let's see if it has signals that it, okay, damn it. There we go. All right. Let me just see if it pops anything up here. What was it called? Yeah. It looks like it looks like it would be compatible. It's not going to be perfect though. It's going to take a little bit of trial and error because the outputs are not labeled like super obviously. But for your buy and sell signal, it should be one of these. So you'll be able to, you'd be able to automate that using the skeleton key, whatever that thing is. Anyways, Rathbad says PENGU versus Solana. Okay, PENGU versus Sol. PENGU Sol. Okay. Wow, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say down. My girthy Holius needs reverse Bertholnolius. Needs reverse green girthy green Olius. Yeah, man. Look, I don't think that this thing's going to be seeing any consistent green dildo activity, to be honest, man. When I look at these vaults, I'm like, all right, maybe the high really isn't for Bitcoin. It's bad. It's fucking real bad. Look, again, you can get bounces in these things, but I would be even surprised at this point if it bounces back above your late January high at whatever the hell this ungodly number is right here. I think that this, like, again, whether it bounces in the short term or not, I don't fucking know. The long-term direction is down. It's fucking down, man. It's bad. Really, really bad. Crypto Khalifa says, hey, Crown, I hope you and Elsa are well. Doing all right, just recovering a bit. I've done some basic analysis based on your 5-day BWP and stochastic strategy. Is this interesting? Yes. In my opinion, it is. Fired off again last week. See screenshot 5 messages below. Okay. Yes. Okay. So you're testing it in a little bit of a different way than what I've done it on YouTube, but we'll go off of what you're suggesting here. You want to see BBWP just below 10 and then back above 10. So for me, I want to see it below 10, but also not back above 10. It needs to actually get back above about 20 to 25. I think it's 25 actually, but at least 20. That I remember for sure. Anyways, you have listed out the average time, then the total move. Looks like all of these, or sorry, not all of these have actually been massive moves. These past 3 ones here have actually been, barely even double digits. Anyways, your average move 24, median 21, standard deviation 16. I think that's probably about right, to be honest. And let's just verify what you said as well. So I'm gonna go over here, 5-day time frame. Whoops, get rid of this. For Bitcoin, indeed, we see BBWP well above 10, and actually, as of right now, it's 37. So I'd say that condition is also met. And 5-day stochastic oscillator is positioned to the downside. So the way that I read this is that on this next closure, so in 2.5 days, if Bitcoin is still below this pivot, that is a signal. That is indeed a signal. Now, as you went over here, one of the times it did fail, did produce some upside price action. But in the majority of these times, you at least saw some downside from there. And in some cases, you saw some pretty massive downside from there with, pretty fast results, I'd say. So yeah. Oops. Back on Pengu here. All right. We have Dunning-Kruger effect says, hi, me too. I'm autistic. Nice. One of us. Could you please take a look at DG Euronext monthly? You truly are autistic when you're looking at Euro stocks. Jesus, man. Must have been so long since I have... must have been like ages ago when I last tried this because, I wasn't using that layout for a long time. It's retesting its March 2024 highs here. I'm always going to be looking for a short-term pullback off of a move like this, just like I'm looking for a bounce off of retests of prior lows. But this one long-term is bullish. So it is already pulling back a little bit here. Maybe it comes back down and fills the gap at like 112, 113. But I think that this one has got some more upside to go on the long term. I mean, you got hidden bullish evidence here on the monthly, and you're already at that prior high. So I think that this one makes new all-time highs. It does have a good history here as well. So, I'd be leaning on the upside after a little bit of a short-term downside move. Very bullish, especially as long as you're above like 105. So yeah, not bad. All right. GK says, hi, looking at gold TD9 on, okay, it must be a Tone Vase guy. I don't look at the TD to be honest. But your question is, how would you convince someone holding physical gold not to sell? The idea itself of holding physical gold is on a long-term trade, still 2 to 3 years out, but have no issue selling or rebuying to avoid a bigger 30% drawdown. Let's see. I haven't looked at gold in a while, to be honest. What would I say to convince someone to hold gold? Well, if you're long-term, I don't see any reason to let go of it until it like fully confirms a downtrend reversal here, and it need to come back down below your February low and close below there. That's even just that's just for a daily as well. The weekly, I mean, you're in an uptrend as long as you're above 2750, especially. So it's like, is that a big drawdown? I don't know. Let's So 7.5. Yeah, I don't think you're getting a 30% drawdown from where it's currently at, man. At least not yet. I do think that it'll travel a little bit higher, probably even hits like at least, okay, I shouldn't say at least, but somewhere around $3,000. It's already gotten very close to there. Then I'd kind of be expecting a top. Yeah, this one's getting quite tired. I don't think it has that much more to go to the upside, if it has any more to go at all. So, think about it this way, man. Like, you might be 2 to 3 years down the road, but if this thing has seen most of its gains for right now, could it hurt to take some profits? You don't need to take the whole position off, but I would consider taking some profits. I mean, I'm guessing you got in like years ago because you're a long-term person, and it's just like, look, when you're up this much, man, take some fucking profit. Just do it. It'll make you feel a lot better. And yeah, you can still, I don't know, maybe you stay like 30% long and 70% out and wait for a bigger pullback. But 30% move from here, like, I'm not, even if this thing revert, well, I guess if it like truly reversed, yeah, I guess I could look for, a monthly move down to 2,000, 2,100. That would be big, but lots of stops along the way. And from what I'm looking at right here, like, I wouldn't be surprised to see if this thing, I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing get maybe a slightly new all-time high before playing out, a major pullback. I'm talking about like a 10 to 15% pullback, at least. So yeah. Chris Stahl together says, Top Crown, I think Raoul Powell posted this chart. It would look to be bullish for the corns, but the high-term timeframes look like poop. Yes, this is the dilemma that we all run into. And what is he looking at? He's looking at Dixie 1 week change. And he's looking at like very extreme reads. So let's try to zero in on what he is suggesting here. Okay, so he's looking at these ones that are below this dotted line. Okay, that aligned with the low of 2015. That aligned with the low after Rona. That aligned with the lows after FTX. And we are once again seeing this level hit with Bitcoin, not on lows, but on highs, which is already a big like red flag in my mind. Like, it's a marked difference from every other instance that we've seen before. All of these were major lows, low, low, low. This one is around the high. None of the other prior ones were even close to the all-time high. So that is interesting. Now, I can also see when I zoom in a little bit here that this current read that he's highlighting is actually not as low as the other ones that he has highlighted. So that kind of aligns with my thoughts that Bitcoin does still have a little bit more downside to go. But if it is going to be bullish, I mean, I guess at that point it will hit that extreme level, and then hopefully I can put my bull goggles back on. But yeah, man, these sort of things, I mean, it does have a good history of it, but this time is quite literally different because this one's coming at an all-time high. The other ones were all like well below the prior all-time high, basically around the market lows. So yeah, I guess we'll see. But even this would kind of make me more convicted that Bitcoin does have more short and medium-term downside before finding a low. So yeah, I do remain short-term downside biased, but I do think that Bitcoin can, it can put in a low. I'm leaning more and more towards $75,000. Somewhere between like 70 and 75 would look all right to me. Anyways, we're just over the 1 hour mark now, so we'll shut off right there. Of course, if you want to join in at a future Q&A session, you can just join the Discord link in the description below and find your way over to don't do that, to this section over here on Discord, and you can ask whatever the fuck you want. Can't promise I have an answer for you, but I could try. So fair enough. Anyways, we'll end things on that note. As always, I want to wish everyone the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.